Oh, I'm gonna need this. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you so much because over this past week I hit 500 subscribers and I've never been so chuffed in all my life. Well, I've had 2 babies, but other than that, it's pretty up there. I felt so proud and thank you so much for subscribing and wanting to watch me waffle on about stuff. So cheers. A few weeks ago now I asked people to send in their questions for me, get to know me a bit better, get the juicy tea. What does juicy tea even mean? Get the tea. I don't actually know what that means. You sent in your questions on Instagram and ooh, some of them are a little cheeky. Okay, I'm gonna get the first one up now and I'll just try and select at random and we'll see how we get on. Oh, wish me luck. So the first question is, what is my job? And my job is quite sensitive. It's a sensitive subject. I will try and word it as best I can. So I think there are several names for what I do. I work in a funeral home. I think you would call it a funeral operative, perhaps. In the funeral home, I do the decedent's hair and makeup. I get them ready. I'm also a bearer on the funerals, the general workings in the funeral home. I am training to do the arranging and things like that. Now, something else I do within that is I also, I have a feeling they're called a last responder. I'm not sure, someone may have to clarify on that. So when somebody passes away, a colleague and myself will go to their house, and depending on if their funeral is with us, then we take them into our care. So basically we go and pick up the decedent and bring them back to us, so then they can go in the chapel of rest and be viewed if they want to, if the family want to view, etc. But also another side is we get coroner's calls, which means you could be going to suspicious deaths or suicides. They're not coming into our care, so they go to the mortuary. We pick that decedent up and we take them to the mortuary where, you know, tests and things will be done, but that is out of our hands. As I said, it's a really hard subject, so because we could be going to a suicide 1 minute and then the next we could be going to a crime scene. I'm going to put it in just layman's terms, very factual. So in a nutshell, we get the decedents and we take them to the mortuary. Sometimes they come back to us if they're having the funeral with us, but sometimes that's all we have to do with that decedent, and then they go on and their family chooses which funeral director they want, and so on and so forth. I can imagine I'm probably going to get a lot more questions about my job after this, but I don't ever want to lose the compassion and care I have for other people doing that job. And I must say, I work in a funeral home that is so caring and considerate and respectful. Yeah, I think that's all I can say about it. If you've got more questions about it, I will try and answer them for you. Okay, next question. Hopefully it's a little bit easier. Would you ever get weight loss surgery? Now, I would get weight loss surgery if I'd lost all the weight, but I haven't. And when I have, I'm just going to do what my body tells me to do. That's not the right word. I'm going to do what I feel like I need to do. If I feel like I've got too much skin, then yes. I feel like I'll probably have this region done anyway. But I probably would have the whole shebang. I think it's called like a mummy makeover, and they like just snip it all off and just tuck it in. And when I was really big, I always seemed to have really big boobs and it really got on my nerves, so I think I would just like a nice little pair of pert little... This next one made me really laugh. Would you ever have an OnlyFans account? Nobody wants to see that. Okay, next question. Do you want more babies? Wow, we're really getting in there today, aren't we? Okay, babies. I have, if you are new here, I have 2 children I have Isabella, who is 8, nearly 9, and I have Teddy, who is 4, nearly 5. I really, really love babies. I really do. Never say never, but I'm pretty sure I'm done. It would have to take something, but I do get very broody, like very broody. If I see a baby, I'm like, oh, give me that baby. Not in a creepy way, obviously. I act really nonchalant about my own children. People always say you would never know you had children because you never talk about them unless you're asked about them. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be one of those mums that goes, oh my goodness, do you know what Teddy did today? He blew his own nose. I would just rather just sit back and someone say, have you got children? And then I'll say something about it. I don't want to be someone who just inserts about children all the time, like I'm doing right now. When I was in high school and I used to tell people my mum was 31 when she had me, I felt like my mum was ancient because all of my friends' mums had had their kids at like 20, 24. Yeah. So even though now I'm at that stage of being 30, I think I'm so young, I can have another baby or 4. So to sum up, never say never, but I don't think so, but maybe. If my mum watches this, she's gonna kill me. She's gonna be like, Charlotte, you do not want another baby. I don't know, is it just a thing where you get like a maternal itch once your children get to a certain age? Is there a point where you think, oh, how lovely would that be to do again? But the thought of doing the school run again, like adding another, how many years would I be doing the school run for? I would be adding so many years on to doing the school run. That makes me feel physically sick. The next question ties in a little bit, so we'll go into that one as well. And it is, how old were you when you had a baby? So when I had my first baby, Isabella, I was 22 just. It was a few days after my 22nd birthday. And then when I had Teddy, I was 26. No, I wasn't. I was nearly 26. However, I have been pregnant altogether 4 times. However, I miscarried 2, and one of them was a long time ago before Isabella, and then the other one was before Teddy. So, did try sooner. In this day and age though, I don't think that's really young anymore. 22 does sound quite young, and when I tell people I have like a nearly 9-year-old, they're like but then I mean I was married at 21. Next question is, have you ever taken drugs? Now, no. Well, I've never had a social circle that offered me drugs, so I've never really had the opportunity to. I do make people laugh when I'm walking with someone and they'll go, oh, it stinks of weed. I'm like, I don't know what weed smells like. I have lived a sheltered life when it comes to stuff like that. And also, I have nosebleeds when the weather changes. Imagine if I tried to put something up my nose, it would just be like, poof. So no, I've never tried them. No, I've never had an interest to try them. But if you want to do it, no, that's illegal. I shouldn't be saying that. Don't do drugs. Don't, kids. I think I've had like a drag of a cigarette and that's about it. She's a rebel. Oh, quite a cutesy one next. Well, it's not cute. What are your phobias? I don't like big bangs. Big bangs make me feel sick, and I go a bit panicky and shaky. So if I go to a party, obviously not recently, if I go to a party and I see balloons loose on the floor and children running around, it makes me feel ill because I just think, oh, they're going to be popping them and it's going to make me feel sick. They're just the bangs, I hate them. Same with fireworks. Anything loud bangs, I don't like. I wouldn't say it's a phobia. However, it does get my heart going really fast and like a bit worked up, but that I've probably brought that on myself thinking every time about big bangs. But as for anything else like spiders or snakes, I feel like I'm fine with them. Next question is, how many tattoos do you have? I have 3 tattoos and not one of them is good. I've had one go at lasering them off, and let me tell you, that shit hurts. Like worse than getting the tattoo. Next question is, what are your favourite baby names? There's a lot of baby related things on this quiz. People don't like my baby name choices anyway. I like the name Blossom, but I can't imagine an older lady called Blossom. Actually, I can imagine like a grandma being called Blossom, that would be quite cute, but I can't imagine a young adult like my age being called if someone shouted Blossom at me, I'd be like, nah. But I do really love the name. I have always wanted to use the name Bonnie. I love the name Bonnie because of Gone with the Wind, the little girl called Bonnie Blue Butler. So when Beyonce had Blue Ivy, everyone was like, Blue, what a weird name. And I was like, I was loving Blue in Gone with the Wind in like 1940. I mean, I wasn't around then, but when I first watched the film, I was like, that name is beautiful. I just love it. Rhett in that film when he's like, oh, she got Bonnie Blue Butler. Clark Gable in that film. Ugh. Any more girls' names that I really like? There's loads and loads of girls' names that I love though. Really pretty names like Honey, Summer. I also really love the name Shelley. I used to be obsessed. When I was a child, I loved Barbie and her little sister Shelley. And my auntie Shelley is my favourite auntie of all time. So I loved the name because of her, and then I loved the name because of Barbie's Shelley. But everybody hates it. When I say I love the name Shelley, they're like, oh my god. But I love it. I've got someone who I'm friends with on my Facebook, and she had a daughter around the time I had mine, and she called hers Shelley, and I was like, oh my god, I love it. And she really suits it. She's beautiful. She's actually a model child. She is literally a model, so she pulls it off. Boys' names. Now, boys' names, I like really traditional boys' names, but then I don't like having the same as everybody else. So it's a bit of a... I love the names like George and Louis and the typical Princess Kate names. I think it's really hard to find boys' names. I like Ruben and Luca and Zachary. Okay, next question. What is the weirdest thing that's ever happened in your life? Story time. Oh, not sure this is appropriate. I'll tell it. Mainly, it's just a really bizarre thing that happened. Well, it's a story nonetheless. It's something that happened to me. I won't say any names or anything apart from my dad's name, who is involved in the story. So one Christmas Eve, I was in the passenger seat of the car and my husband was driving, and at this point I only had Isabella and she was in the back, and my dad only lives around the corner from us, and we were on our way to Christingle, which is every Christmas Eve at our church. And as we drive around the corner, I see that like near Dad's house there's I think there was an ambulance and 3 police cars. All the lights were flashing. It was 2015 Christmas. So we pull around the corner and there's an ambulance and like 3 police cars, all flashing, all kicking off. And the nearer we get, I think, oh my god, that's outside Dad's house. And obviously panic stricken. He had a girlfriend, but she didn't live with him. Then we get to his house and a policeman is stood outside. So obviously panicked and heavily pregnant. I was like, Rob, stop the car. I got out. There was nowhere to park in front of his house because obviously it was taken up by all these police cars. I got out, ran to his front door, I waddled to his front door, and the policeman was like, excuse me love, you can't go in here. And I said, this is my dad's house, what has happened? Is he alright? And he was like, I can't tell you anything. And then where his front door is, you can see down his hallway and into his lounge, and I could see him talking to another police officer inside, and his girlfriend was sat there. So instead of trying to get in, I just was like, Dad! And he came running to the door, like a face white. I think he might have been not crying, but very very jittery. And I was like, what has happened? I was like, you're all right? And he was like, there's a woman dead in my bed. And I was like, what do you mean there's a woman dead in your bed? And he was like, there's a woman upstairs and she's dead in my bed. And that's all the story I got. And I was like, I'm not allowed in. I can see that his girlfriend is over there, so she's clearly not the person who is in his bed dead. And he hadn't told me if anyone was coming over or staying or why, so I didn't have a clue who this woman was. So I got back in the car and I said to Rob, I was like, Dad's got a woman dead in his bed. And he was like, what? I was like, that's all he told me. And then he had to go back in because he was being questioned. Obviously I went to Christingle because there's nothing else I could do, but all the time I was thinking, what has happened? No offence to my dad, I was thinking, why is a woman dead in his bed? So anyway, on the way back from Christingle, the whole commotion had finished. and I knocked on the door, and he said an old friend of his had got in contact through Facebook, and she said, I'm having a really rough time at the minute. Things aren't going well with my husband. I was just wondering if I could have a place to stay for a few days just to get away. And my dad was like, of course you can, no problem. I've got the spare room. You can stay as long as you need to. Obviously bearing in mind this was just like 3 days before Christmas. And she told him on Christmas Eve that she was going home that day. And he said, that's fine, just post the key back through the door when you leave, and I'll see you soon or whatever. Anyway, obviously on Christmas Eve evening, he got home and realised the key hadn't been posted, and he walked up the stairs to find that she had killed herself on his spare bed. And the reason it was like a big investigation was because the way she killed herself, she'd used insulin, and my dad is diabetic, so he has insulin. But what she had done is brought with her husband's insulin, put it in the fridge underneath his so he didn't notice, and then injected that. I think it's very fatal if you aren't diabetic and you inject yourself with insulin. It's fatal. Well, it was in this case, but I'm pretty sure it is. And so that's why it was a bit of a, and her husband, because it was a crime scene, her husband couldn't get in touch with my dad, and my dad couldn't get in touch with her husband just to, you know, be like, I'm so sorry for your loss, or can you imagine how many questions the husband had? You know, it was just awful. And then 2 days later, all our houses flooded. But that is probably the weirdest thing. I mean, it's not really happened to me, but that is a pretty weird thing that's happened in the family. I have really brought the tone down there, haven't I? If you have any more questions, put them in the comment box below. And again, thank you for over 500 subscribes now. Very, very grateful for you all. So thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!